Come game hunting with me to 5 different places in 3 days. The first stop is this Cash America pawn shop, where I headed straight to the glass case, and they had just put out a bunch of Nintendo 3DS games here. And as you can see, I was kind of making my way through them and kind of looking and checking them out. On the bottom, they actually had the prices for these, but these were all super expensive, so I headed over towards the game console section, where I had to be a little kind of secretive because this was right next to the cash registers and I didn't want them to know I was filming. And then I made my way to this section, which unfortunately I didn't find any games that I needed, which is okay because this is just the first stop we've made. But I didn't find anything here, so I decided to go next door to the Restore Rack thrift store, where they actually had a bunch of games in the shelves. First off, I found these 2 Xbox 360 sports games in the section where all the VHSs were. Then a few little sports games up here at the top. I thought there was one back here that was worth it, but it was just FIFA Soccer. And last but not least was down below. Again, PS2, Xbox, these are all sports games, unfortunately, because there's kind of a lot here today, but for whatever reason, they just didn't have any in store, but that's okay. This was just the first day, and I found some really good stuff on day 2, so let's check out these half-price bookstores. First off, I was out of town this day, so these aren't in my normal area, but I still went and checked them out for video games. This glass case had a ton of PS Vita games. Unfortunately, there wasn't anything that kind of jumped out to me or that wasn't expensive, so I kind of left those behind and kept looking. But it is nice to see that many PS Vita games. Then I saw another glass case here, which had a bunch of stuff in it. Down below was kind of like controllers and third-party accessories. And then we had like cartridge-based games here. But they wanted $80 for the Zelda for the NES. It's a gold cartridge. Absolutely insane. As you can see right here, it just blew my mind. And then I made it to the game section where they had some pretty decent games, but nothing there that I had to pick up, except I did end up grabbing the Spirit of the North for the Nintendo Switch for $18, $17.50. Honestly, I'm not sure what happened to the footage for this. I thought I had it, but maybe I don't. For whatever reason, I think I might have lost it. But for 18 bucks, I saw this and I figured this game looks like it might be interesting. It looks a little weird and a little bit wacky, which you know I love. And for $17.50, I couldn't pass this up, so I ended up grabbing it, but it was starting to get dark when I made my way to the second half-price bookstore that I ended up going to. I've been to this one a few times, and I've found some really good deals here. Not every time I've gone, but occasionally I'll find some good stuff. I ended up checking out the glass case here, which had, again, a bunch of cartridge-based games here, some fake games, some games I wasn't really interested in. Then there was some decent PS1 games, even Lunar 2, which was absolutely crazy to me, as well as a few other games here higher up. Second sight for the Xbox was a little too expensive, and then a stack of pretty common NES games. Then I made my way to the disc section where they had a bunch of Wii U games, and then I ended up finding this Prinny Presents NES Classics Volume 2 for the Switch, which caught my eye, but I continued on where I kind of looked through a little bit more, the PS2, the PS3 section. This Giants game caught my eye, but it was a little overpriced by a few dollars, so I ended up putting it back. Ultimately, I continued on and found Guitar Hero. I've always got to see how much these prices are at half-price books. Sometimes they miss things, and they definitely have some good PS3 games like Persona 5. And below, they had PS4 Dreams, which at first I was interested in, but I don't know if this is a game I would enjoy, so I left it behind. Kind of wish I would have at least tried to pick it up, but it is what it is. And then I just found some more PS4 games that were pretty awesome here. This one caught my eye. I almost got it, but I did ultimately end up putting it back. And then, to my surprise, there was PS5 games. I did see Spirit of the North, which I just picked up, but some Xbox games here and there. Again, more PS Vita games. That was a Japanese copy, but it is what it is. So I'm shocked I found Minecraft here as well for the Xbox 360. I always look for that to see if I can find some cheap games that people may not have noticed. But I did end up picking up this Prinny Presents NIS Classics Volume 2 for $30. I think this is worth like 40 or so. This is like a special edition one, so it kind of comes with the outside like sleeve, and then it has the game inside of it, or I guess the 2 games inside of it on one cartridge. And then on the inside there was a bunch of other things, like I believe there's a soundtrack, which I just dropped the disc to. There's a soundtrack that just kind of slides in there, which is a little and then the kind of compendium, which looks like illustrations and stuff, which are pretty cool. For $29.99, this is a pretty good deal. I always love when games come with extra stuff like this, and so to end up finding this for 30 bucks when it was a little bit more on price charting, I think was definitely a cool pickup. But that's not the last place I ended up going, because on the third day, I ended up going to this Family Treasures Antique Mall, which had an absolute ton of stuff. I made my way through it, and I ended up spotting this Pac-Man lunch pail that's been here for a while. I think they wanted like 45 bucks for it, which is just too much for me. Then a booth about 2 down the way had a stack of games here on the shelf, and then down below was a few more games, but I think all of these have been here since the last time I was here, so nothing I had to pick up. I did also see this flower that was pretty cool, and then I saw some HD DVDs. If you know what these are, shout out to you. This is from the Xbox 360, an absolutely ridiculous thing the Xbox tried to do. Then I ended up finding a sealed copy of NHL 2022, which is a few years ago and probably won't sell anytime soon. I ended up finding this booth that had a bunch of Xbox 360 games, and I ended up finding the Secret Service game, which was actually worth more than I anticipated it being, so I ended up grabbing it. I kind of looked around for more games underneath here. I thought about picking this Fast and Furious game up until I realized how expensive it was and left it behind. I was not spending that much on that game. It's worth like 15 or so absolutely crazy. Then I found this Mario and Luigi plush, but again, I have ones that are similar to this, and I don't really need it for the collection, so I left them behind. Then this booth had a ton of different figures, from Mario to Princess Peach to even Squirtle. There were Pokemon here. There was Mario Kart stuff. There was a big Yoshi, a Mario. There was a ton of stuff in this booth. And then I found this corner of a few games here and there. I would pick that up if I didn't have it already, but for the most part, all these other games are not really interesting to me. I did see this funny looking Sonic here in the back there on the right. And then I continued on to this booth, which actually ended up having a bunch of stuff. Even a box for a memory card for the Nintendo 64, which was pretty interesting. It was a knockoff, but I kind of checked through these PS3 games down here. And then there are a few games up here above, but honestly, these were the same games since I was here last time, except I ended up picking up Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 2 here from this booth. And then I kind of was thinking about maybe getting that memory pack, but I think they had it priced a little too much, and I think one of them was missing, so I left it behind. Then I ended up finding this Donkey Kong Skylanders and a few other video game related figurines here, but I continued on where I saw a Wii U game here, just the disc, as well as that raccoon, or I think that's actually the Cat Mario. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Then this booth I've bought from before. This was one that had a Wii in it that I bought boxed for a while ago, but honestly, all of these games were pretty basic and nothing that I absolutely had to have. Now, I do keep seeing this Marvel game, and it catches my eye. It's a Lego Marvel Villains game. Actually, that's DC, not Marvel. What am I thinking? That looks interesting. Then I saw this Star Wars Rebel Assault for the PlayStation, but it was priced a little too much, as well as a few games here. But again, nothing worth it. I did find this Star Wars Old Republic box special edition set, which was really awesome. And this Borderlands 2, or actually Borderlands 3 box has been here for a while. And then I found this booth, which was pretty awesome. I found NFL Blitz 2003 for basically dirt cheap, and then a PlayStation 2, but they wanted a little too much for this. I was contemplating it, and I kind of calculated the games and the console itself, but it just wasn't worth getting, so I left it behind. I ended up finding a few little Pikachu plushes here and there, and right below it was this Yoshi and this Mario kind of picture frame, which I thought was pretty cool. Then right next to that, I ended up finding this Squirtle plushie, but it was a little too big and one of those derpy ones, so I left it behind. A box Wii Fit Plus is not interesting to me at all, but it is what it is, and these I've picked through before, so I didn't have anything there that was worth picking up. So overall, I found a few games from this flea market. Nothing crazy here. I got Super Mario 3D World off camera for like $10, which is pretty interesting. Then the Secret Service game ended up being way more than I thought it was going to be, so of course I had to grab it, and upon looking at it, this might be one of those games that I have to play just because it does look so ridiculous. This Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 2 was a good deal, so I ended up grabbing that as well. And then last but not least, NFL Blitz 2003 for the GameCube. I don't find GameCube in my area, especially not for this cheap, so it's good to be adding more GameCube games for dirt cheap into my collection. But overall, I kind of made my way through these last 3 days while I was game hunting and found, 6 different games for decent deals. I feel like that's not too bad for a 3-day span. Sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some, but overall, I feel like this is a good little set of games, and honestly, if I wouldn't have gone to that flea market at the end, the first 2 places I went were mediocre. The half-price books were okay. Usually, sometimes they're better and sometimes they're not, but I think this was definitely a good pickup. But what do you think? Would you have picked any of these games up, or did I miss any? If so, comment down below and let me know. But I'm going to get out of here, so check out that video out if you haven't already. I think maybe my favorite game is this Secret Service game, just because of how ridiculous it looks on the back. But obviously, Super Mario 3D World is amazing, and I'm excited about GameCube games. But enough about that. I'm getting out of here, so check out that video out if you haven't already.